My next guest, he might be the busiest trainer in the world, at least for the next couple months. Might be the best trainer in boxing as well. Derrick James,
Thank you.
the man behind the scenes with two of the best fighters in the game today. Unified junior middleweight champion, Jermell Charlo, and of course, Errol Spence, the unified unbeaten welterweight champion. I say busy, Derrick, because April 16th, we got Spence Ugas, big time Showtime pay-per-view. And less than a month later, May 14th, is that rematch with Castano for Jermell Charlo for all four titles. Do you like it this busy? Is this ideal to have these fights so close together for you?
I think that working is good, but sometimes it's like you don't get a break. Normally I used to take a vacation in between and start a camp. No vacation time right now. It's just me just working and whatever. Even right now, I'm like at the bar meeting my wife for a couple minutes from the gym to leaving work to, so it's busy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's good to be that busy. Good to have clientele you have. Look, this is a big comeback for Errol Spence Jr. Again, this time from the retina surgery. Supposed to fight Manny Pacquiao last year, and I'm sure for you guys that was a man. You only get there's only so many times in a career you can fight somebody like a Manny Pacquiao.
Right, without a doubt.
What was your reaction though when Yordenis Ugas steps in there late notice and puts it on? A legend like Manny Pacquiao the way he did.
I was happy for him, man. I was happy. I mean, I went to his locker room before the fight and I told him, good luck, go get him. Go make it happen, make the best of the situation. So it was like I was happy for him. I'm a cheerleader for anybody being successful, other than if they're going against us. But any other time, I want you to be successful. That's what he did. I was happy for him.
How different to prepare for now is Yordenis Ugas from where the road you were heading down for Manny Pacquiao?
You know what? It's different. It's different. It's a different style of fighting. It's a bigger guy who tries to impose his will. It's a guy who's very skilled, very talented, and he gives angles. But he doesn't have the speed of a Pacquiao, but he does have the intellect and athleticism. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, that'll go down Arlington, Texas, AT&T Stadium, Dallas Cowboys. That's the big deal. And Ugas earned it. 3 of 4 welterweight world titles at stake. But, for Errol, it's the second physical scare in a short time period, which has a lot of people talking, from his miraculous and amazing recovery from the car accident mixed with the comeback win against Danny Garcia. But now this is something that, we never know with eye surgeries with this type of thing. When did you know, upon him putting the gloves back on for the first time, that this is something that's behind him?
I knew before he even came back to the gym, he knew that, he was working out before he even got the clearance, right? He's working out, he's training because he knows what he wants. So you got to work towards the goal, like it's just like boxing and everything else in life. Seeing you here talk to me is not about what you did this morning. It's about what you did 5 or 10 years ago, right? So he put this thing into action, in preparation to get him to this particular point. So what we saw, when I knew he came into the gym and before he sparred, they said, he'll be able to spar in November. I said, well, we'll start in December, just to give him just a little bit extra time to heal. That's what we did. So what you see in him is his motivation and desire to be great.
Well, look, you were a pro fighter. You know this as well as anyone.
Right.
There's a mental hurdle to clear whenever there's an injury.
Right.
It just feels like Errol is the type of special, rare talent, but person who can handle high stressful situations, handle questions about him physically and somehow not be affected by it all.
Right.
I mean, obviously you get a front row seat of that. How special is that ability?
I think it's special to be able to compartmentalize everything that happens, everything that goes on is amazing because, it's like this. The accident, the detached retina, you can get a detached retina from sneezing, having flatulence. Anything can get that, moving too fast. So it's like, so those are situations that happen in life, but he's been able to compartmentalize those things and put it to a side and go fight. That's a special, rare talent. But some people can go crazy. Some people may not be able to deal with it, but he's been able to deal with it. And you know, he's a quiet guy anyway, so he's not going to talk about it. But he's been able to deal with it and be able to be great at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that in him from the beginning. It's why fights we haven't seen yet, obviously Terence Crawford, one of them. We just want to find out who's the best of this era, because obviously Spence and Crawford seem to be, with no disrespect to Ugas or anyone else, potentially above the group around them. This could be our, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Thomas Hearns crossroad Mayweather Pacquiao type of fight. I know nobody wants to wait until their Mayweather Pacquiao age though to get there. You're close in it. I mean, is that just itch at you? It's like, guys, make the fight. Everyone, just make the fight.
Well, you know, listen, man. You know, it's a process. It's not about, like I just told you, it's a process. And what I mean by the process means that you have to be able to put it like this. This only makes sense. Whether people want to see him fight Terence Crawford last year, it's stupid. Because you think about this, why would they both be fighting for the unified title? That's what they would be fighting for. So this process is the process that you're going to go through. It's not about what Terence Crawford wants, because it's asinine. Doesn't make sense. Think about it. They both fight for the unified title, opposed to having them fight for the undisputed championship. Doesn't that sound a whole lot better?
That sounds great.
So all these other questions that people are asking, they don't really make sense if you think about it. Because, they're just fighting for one more title, then the winner has to go get Ugas. That doesn't even sound right, right? So I'm answering your question and everybody else's question. Come on, man. It's the process to get these. Think about this. Errol has went out and got every one of these fights. He fought Sean, now he's fighting Ugas. Then after that, after we beat him, then we'll go get whatever else he wants. So the only way you become undisputed, you got to fight all four guys.
Well, that
adds three other guys.
That adds even more obvious intrigue into the stakes of what Spence Ugas is April 16th for maybe that chance to step forward and await WBO champion Terence Crawford for the 4-belt fight that we all need and deserve. Look, Ugas he could be a trap fight for anyone. And he turned out to be that on late notice for Manny Pacquiao. How do you sort of put into words some of the sneakiness of what he does well that allows him to surprise people? Because I thought he beat Sean Porter, and I wouldn't have guessed that coming in that night.
No, I think that, man, listen, this is the thing about it. Other fighters have finesse. He's a skilled, technical fighter, and he's a fighter. Somebody who wants to fight, right? You know what I'm saying? A lot of guys want to kind of box you and outpoint you, but he's going to fight you. And when you see him do that, it's like that's who he is. And he's tough, and he believes in himself. So you think about this: you've never seen him in a fight where he's doubting himself. Never. And so hopefully, we'll put him in that position where he second guesses his motion and his movements. But that's what it's all about. It's the art of war. It's to get him to not believe in himself first.
If anyone is well-rounded enough in plus in every category, it's certainly Errol. That's why I believe, look, if they're both at 100% best they can be, I like Errol better than Ugas, but it's a layoff. We got to see what can happen. Ugas has surprised us before. When you're looking at Errol's history, man, that Sean Porter fight was fun. But tell me, that couldn't have been the game plan, right? At what point were you like, hey, Errol, we weren't supposed to brawl this guy. What happened there?
Well, what happened is, like, we put it like this. I prepared him to box. But at the same time, I prepared him to be able to fight on the inside as well, because you can't think you're going to fight Sean Porter in a fight and not get into a fight. You can't box him the whole way. But what happened was that when he went in, they started fighting. He started boxing initially, and in spots he boxed, but for the most part, he fought. So I have to give him instructions from that perspective. You know, you want him to box, but listen, that wasn't going on. He wanted to fight him. He wanted to beat him at what he does best. And he beat him, he out-brawled Sean Porter.
So you adjusted your analysis to what he was doing because you know that's how he's wired.
Well, that was playing too. It was like normally you know this guy's going to get into a fight if you fight this guy. So you don't want the fight to happen and him not prepared for the fight. if you have him all the way bouncing and boxing around the whole ring, like he did Danny or like he did Mikey, right? But then how long can you do that with Sean? It's going to happen. The fight's going to happen, right? So you prepare him for the fight. And what happened, he went in and he started fighting me. He liked that part of it, so hey, I coached him from that perspective.
I agree. And Errol's track record, I mean, he's got the deepest, most decorated resume in this division at this moment for a reason. Right. But there's a fight that didn't go on his pro ledger that I always try to ask him for extra details about. Nobody wants to talk about the sparring session with Floyd Mayweather from 2012 when a young Errol went in there ahead of that Cotto fight and may or may not have put it on Floyd. Sean Porter never tells me the truth. Right, Kenny Porter always kind of sniffs around it. Do you know the story? Did a early pro Errol stand in there and say, "No, Floyd, I'm not leaving this ring. Let's do this thing"?
Well, because I wasn't there. I can only go by what was told to me by other people. And they just said, he stood his ground and he did what he was supposed to do. I mean, this is a gentleman's sport. And from a gentleman's perspective, gentlemen don't talk about what happened behind closed doors.
How did I know I was going to get that? All right, on another topic before I transition to what's going on with Jermell Charlo ahead of this Castano rematch that we're fired up for May 14th. You train them both. Iron sharpens iron. But then I go on Boxing Scene and Errol Spence is like, no, I would fight Jermell if the money was right. Jermell had previously said they'd never fight their brothers. When you hear this soap opera-ness, and I know headlines sometimes can change the meaning, how do you react to seeing that?
I mean, this is like my first time hearing that. So I don't know about it. I mean, listen, fighters fight. It's like this. What is the issue with best friends or good friends instead of you making money together? So that's the thing about it. Like, this is funny about boxing, right? When you fight somebody, they're your coworker. Because you can't make the money you make without the opponent you're fighting against. So when you fight somebody, that's your coworker anyway. So being if it's a guy you know, I don't know how that works if two stablemates fight each other, but you're just coworkers anyway.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out, can you get two paychecks that night, or do they have to pick which one wants you more? I mean, there's always some of that element that you don't want to go down if you don't have to. As a
I'm not even. I don't want to even think about it. So
yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
That's why I asked the question as coworkers. I didn't. No.
Hey, they're co-businessmen too, and they're both huge stars, and that's why we have these debates. Before we get into Jermell Castano, bringing back Terence Crawford from the last conversation, there was like a couple of days where all online wanted to talk about was Terence Crawford moving up to 54 and taking on Jermell Charlo. I'd have to assume you guys would welcome that because it's a super fight. Like it's tough to make in this game. Two of the top 10, maybe best fighters in the game facing each other. Do you look at that as realistic or Terence Crawford just talking game?
I think that he believes in himself, man. I don't think you just mention something like that without really truly believing in yourself. And I think that with him, he truly believes in himself. And I think that he was real about it. But I think that at the same time, it was like sometimes you ask for things that, some things are too big to ask for. And I think that could be one of them, but who knows? He's dealing with what he's dealing with. I have no idea about that. So we'll just, see what he's going to do. I mean, we'll focus on Errol Spence and Castano. And after that, things, we'll see.
Indeed. Charlo's going to take Castano a second time, May 14th, Los Angeles on Showtime. And there's a gift. This could be a pay-per-view in itself, you can imagine. It's a gift that it's on regular Showtime to the fans. But that first fight, split draw. And the scorecards were in different directions. Fans and media seemed to be split. A draw is a tie. It's like kissing your sister. Do you take that as more of a win or a loss as a coach looking back on Jermell's performance?
Man, I take it as, and you don't take it as a win. You just take it as it is what it is, because a draw is just not a victory, right? And I mean, it just depends on just if it had you done a little bit this, a little bit that, you could generally get what you want. But it's okay. I mean, I look at it as both of us as the opportunity to get better. Brian Castano has the opportunity to get better. Jermell Charlo has the opportunity to get better, and that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking forward to, a better version of himself that night.
Do you think he was not, I don't want to say surprised. You knew Castano was a pressure fighter, but maybe surprised at the skill Castano showed in being able to stand his ground at close range in front of Jermell and make it the type of fight that Castano likes to fight. Did that surprise you guys at all at his ability to do that?
I think that this is the funny thing about it. Brian Castano was who I thought he was going to be, right? But he only was able to be that guy because of Jermell Charlo. You know, it wasn't about him, how great he was or great he wasn't. It's about the fight that Jermell Charlo posed and the fight that he gave him. I mean, when he was, and then you look at it, in the last 4 rounds or whatever, he was on the run because Jermell was on the hunt. So it's like, if you start out like that, you may not see the last 4 rounds. You may not see 12 rounds or whatever. So I think you just have to start the fight out different and be a different individual. Castaneo's going to be himself. He's a phenomenal fighter. He's a pressure fighter. If you let him be, this is with any fighter. If you let them be themselves, you can't be the guy you let him be himself.
Well, Jermell, sometimes he's so well-rounded that I'm never sure if he wants to be a boxer or a puncher. Like sometimes he'll switch roles, which will help him.
Right.
But then there's some fights where Jermell's dominating so much, and the only criticism you could say is he throwing enough to leave no doubt on the scorecards? When you hear that criticism of him, which is nothing against his talent, maybe sometimes against the output, is that
Right.
fair from your perspective?
Well, I mean, it just depends on. It depends on what your taste of boxing is. Like, what do you really like? What do you really want? What were your expectations? If you have great expectations to see him go out there and throw 1,000 punches, 999 is not gonna get it for him. You know what I mean? But I think that. But if you go out there and you watch him do what he does best and watch him box and move around, and at the same time show his power. I mean, versatility is what gives you depth. And if you, like you said, you don't know if he's a puncher, if he's a boxer, but if he can be wherever you want to be, and that could be great. And I think that that's what keeps people intrigued because they want to see him. They don't know what they're expecting, but they expect those knockouts. You think about 6 or 7 knockouts in a row. So you expect knockouts, but when he goes to boxing, it's kind of like, hey, he can box too. We forgot about that. So I think that gives him depth opposed to shortening his career or hurting everybody's expectations what they thought he was going to get.
And it's hard to complain when you're landing and connecting at such a high percentage
Right.
with the power shots, which he is. So
Right.
sometimes he's selective, but if we're talking about Charlo and Castano and both have a chance to show how much they can improve from the first fight, I think Jermell has a higher window of what he can show to improve. Doesn't mean he wins it, we'll see, but that certainly is in play. And sometimes it's just, can you guys unlock that in the right moment? How much are you guys? I mean, I don't know if you'll be watching it live, but Tim Tszyu is going to make that U.S. debut, and a lot of people are saying, look, if he gets through Terrell Gaucher and proves that the hype's real, he's not going to be too far away from a title shot given that name and pedigree. Do you feel like, prove it to me first, or do you? I mean, where do you at with Eskin?
Hey man, I'm not even concerned about him. I mean, I've been hearing about him. People, a guy in Australia talks about it, but I'm not concerned about that. I'm not thinking about that because I'm thinking about Brian Castano. Once we get past Brian Castano, I can think about anybody else, whoever it is. I mean, good fathers doesn't mean you're a good fighter. He's been great thus far, but I'm sure they've been matching him the right way because that's how you build a fighter. You want to see if they're developing him. It's a key element. Not only building him, but developing him. That's where the skill set comes into play. So we'll see.
You've also got Erickson Lubin heading into a very tough matchup against Sebastian Fundora. It's telling everyone, look.
Is that on the undercard? That's not on.
No, that's going to be on its own Showtime main event.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
I don't have the date in front of me, but it's a great fight coming up in a few weeks. And Erickson believes he gets Jermell next if he wins, if Jermell beats Castano. How different do you think this kid has become since that first round surprising knockout loss?
I have no idea. I don't watch a lot of boxing, man.
Okay.
I think that I only watch the opponents when they say it's time to fight. I don't watch a lot of boxing. The thing about it, only way you can live is not to be so engulfed in it, because other than that, you be boxing to the ears. So I don't watch a lot of that.
Hey, keep whatever you've been doing with Spence and Charlo, keep it up. It's working,
I appreciate
man.
that. Thank you.
Derrick James, great chatting with you, and to hear, the inside thought process ahead of two big fights on the Showtime and Showtime pay-per-view calendar, but also, we all love Eddie Reynoso. If he wants to win some awards, that's fine. But you're making a run lately as the elite trainer in the game, and I wanted to give you your flowers and just sort of say, how do you manage that part of it? Because, your phone's probably ringing a lot, but you can only coach so many.
Well, I have a job. I work a job. I like, from when I started training Errol, nothing's changed. I keep my same job. I work 7 days a week. Yesterday, like on Tuesday, Thursday, I wake up at 4:20 to go train somebody at their house. Wow. So I do I'm working. I'm leaving my job and transition, going to the gym. So I keep my life the way it has been. I haven't still work 7 days a week. I still do everything I've been doing. I haven't done everything. I haven't changed anything. I haven't done anything different. That's the thing about it, that I just been able to be consistent. Consistency is the key. I think that people, Eddie Reynoso do what he do. Whatever, man. I don't watch those guys. I don't care about that stuff. I think that Canelo's a good fighter. I think that Canelo would be a good fighter without him. You know what I mean? Up until a certain point. So you keep facing the right type of competition, Canelo can keep beating them. That's the key element.
That's true. Well, you guys are going to be in big fights for many years to come, I'm sure. So you'll be very busy regardless. Derrick James, thank you for your time, sir. Best of luck in these two great fights coming up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good to see you. This is my first time being on the show, man.
Not the last. All right. Not the last.
All right. Okay. I was going to say this. All right. I got you.